Hello and welcome to the webinar on co-planning case study, how to adapt 4 major ELL strategies coaching ELA. We're hosted today by the New York State TESOL Association, whose website is here. It's brand new. On this page here, on this link, you can go to the online teaching, the continuing education page, and also the webinars and publications that you can access. If you're not a part of this organization already, please consider doing so you can take advantage of all these amazing supports that you have to teach language. All right, so I'm Frederick Lim. This is my email, and you have access to this blog that I post that has a lot of resources to help you teach as well, and features what I'm doing in my classrooms with other teachers. All right, so finally, the 4 major ELL strategies. These 4 here on the right are a group. It's a group of ways that you can holistically differentiate ELL instruction. The first is the understandability of it, or the comprehensibility of it, of the input that you're giving to ELL. We're going to label that C. Is it fun and rigorous? That would be R. Developing all modalities, that would be an M. Modalities, if you don't know, are the speaking, writing, reading, and listening portions of your lessons. And then the 4th one is how transferable is the home language into the new language. Let's take a look at the scenarios where we apply these supports. The ELA teacher suddenly found himself having to plan a remote learning course. He asked me to help differentiate the L's and FELs lessons. FELs, of course, are the former L's. He's a first-year teacher, and he's doing this unit by himself. Now, I asked him, well, do you have a unit plan? Let's look at that first. Okay, so I found out that he wanted to focus on the novel Lord of the Flies, which he enjoys reading, so that's good. He wanted to have the students summarize each chapter. That is a standard 8.2, but I said, well, look, these are 8th graders. It's their last hurrah in middle school. Let's make it fun and rigorous for them to prepare them for high school. What do you think? So he said, okay, let's do that. Okay, so let's find some digital tools to make that happen, to include our modalities, and then make the input for them comprehensible. What this means is that if you're creating a project, you have to tell them what the project is about. Once they know what it's about, then it's a lot easier for them to do the daily lessons, okay? And then vocabulary is important, so if there's anything that needs to be translated into L1, have that be available when they need it. Okay, deeper dive into this. The fun and rigorous, 8.2 becomes 8.9. You still have the chapter summaries there, but you can also include a storyboard for them to express what they know about those chapters. If they can't write it necessarily, they can show you in a picture board or a storyboard. 8.9 does a lot of analyses and comparisons. So you're comparing the film to the text, and you're comparing the text to personal experiences the film. So you can increase the rigor just by having the students compare different ways that this story is told. And that'll set them up well for what they have to confront in 9th grade. In terms of digital tools, you have the reading anyway from a book, and you have the writing anyway from a journal. Pick some things that would correspond to something like listening, like a recording, and also speaking. If they have a buddy in class, then they can have like a phone buddy in remote teaching. Pair them up, and they can discuss things over the phone. And also give them a way to record the responses and send them to you in an MP3 or MP4 file so that you can also monitor how they're speaking. In terms of comprehensibility, the ELL supports lend themselves well to that. I suggested a language objective that pairs with your your learning target. So learning target plus your language objective. And what's that simply is that you're going to be doing something, but then you're going to express it in a way like a journal entry would be in a paragraph form. That would be a language objective. Or in the past tense form, again, another language objective. That can be a webinar in and of itself. You can use different maps, like a story plot line. I would suggest the hero's journey just because this is more complex. And Lord of the Flies actually follows this in some way. The project rubric needs to be clear, and the audio recording needs to be available for them to be able to understand the text. Let's see. Vocabulary. If you teach them a way to capture vocabulary that they encounter, they would be more successful in comprehending the book because certain vocabulary words will come up time and time again over different chapters. So using these strategies would really help the students' comprehension of the book. And each one of these could be a webinar in and of themselves. All right, let's take a look at the unit plan that he developed. You can see the standards here is 8.9 with the analyzing all of this. The key vocabulary that carries through the whole unit are these here that ELL should know and everyone should know. What's the big compelling idea? I think the teacher nailed it on the head when he created this one to determine whether or not humans are born with their traits or are they raised with traits? This issue of nature versus nurture. Long after the students are done with your class, they're still going to be thinking about this question because it's something that humans can argue endlessly about, right? This is the type of long-term thinking that we'd like to instill in the students so they can apply it to everyday stuff. All right, so enough about that. This is what the interface with the students looks like. Imagine this page. He gave it to me without color and without bolding, without underlining. It was just a bunch of text saying Island Journal and a picture of an island. I said, well, look, this doesn't look that inviting for anyone. When you say major themes here, for example, you need to give examples because some students don't know what a theme is. Put examples like love, war, forgiveness. They'll be thinking of those concepts. Events in each chapter. If you want to do a chapter assignment, then put chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Allow them to choose the way they want to express this journal and have it obvious here, right? With bolding and underlining. Add another picture. If you're reading a book that's pretty famous, why not have the cover as part of your course description? Just an island here is not intriguing, but with the book cover, you kind of wonder, what's this island and this book have to do with each other? All right, and more comprehensibility. Have them express things that they, in mediums or media that they know, like a TikTok or a video story or a Google slide, to promote a kind of a playfulness. Everyone's alone or with their families, so if they can share with each other, it's even better. The usual supports for these different standards standards can be included as well, like a Venn diagram and these things we already know as basic. In terms of journal options, have them make a choice. This increases the rigor as well. If they're into it, you're going to know that they're into it because they can do a really good video on YouTube or a TikTok or something that really expresses the visual side of communication that pairs well or goes beyond what they can write. Adobe Spark has templates, and Google Slides have templates. And I suggested Storyboard that for their storyboards if they want to go that way. After like maybe 5 chapters, they would probably get sick of doing a slide or doing a TikTok. So they're going to shift. So it's nice for them to have these choices. I suggested also to give an example of what a acceptable higher end storyboard would look like. And this is what the teacher got out of his files from another student. I think it's quite good. And you can show the students that, okay, you're not going to put up with sloppy work. It's got to have some kind of art to it. All right, so back to the unit plan, more language, and here's something about the rigor. Have it appeal to what they're going to be going into, like the 9th grade, like high school, college. Every day there's going to be vocabulary that's appropriate for that day, like human nature, utopia, dystopia, as a gateway into the chapters. You know, like the first day you're just doing the introduction to it, and then the next day you get into the chapter 1. I wanted to highlight here, learning 2 words a day is like the minimum you can do for an L. That's 350 words a year if they're reading every day through the summer. So of course this is an ideal scenario. But just imagine if they're learning 8 words a day, that's even better. After a year, it's 3,000 words a year. And that's a lot of words. There's a link here for the research if you wanted to check that out. All right, again, with the student interface, there are examples of the comic book or the comic storyboards and examples of the written journal entry that the teacher wrote or supplied as an example of a high bar that these assignments require. As a final graphic organizer, I suggested maybe using the hero's journey. This can come in many forms. I like this Prezi most of all because it's quite creative, actually. It takes a while to load, but I promise you it's worth it. Well, that's probably why it took a long time to load. Oh, again, there's me. So, sorry about me. Let's see, can I go away? Oh, it doesn't matter. Well, you can see that this type of Prezi, it's dynamic, and it shows the text, that shows the pictures in a really fun and engaging way because everything's moving. All right, so enough of that. The rubric is really important as well. I suggested that you need to define what a 2 means by saying what it doesn't have. Like it doesn't mention the theme or the characters or the personal connection, then it's not a 2. All of those things have to be a 3. Ooh, okay, so among all that, the fun and the rigorous, the modalities, the comprehensibility, the first language when needed, and the other stuff that you might think of, what resonates with you the most? we can set a timer and go to this Padlet. You can see, oh my gosh, why am I stuck there? I don't know. A lot of people wrote in, oh, I like this too. All of these are filled in. Someone wrote in other, like modeling new technology. Could be a way to rope in those who don't want to co-plan by teaching new tools. Yeah, that's true, teach new tools. What else did people say? This is number one for me, using L1 and authentic language and reasoning. Okay. Adding pieces to the lesson to make it more clear and accessible for Ls. Sure. Yeah, I like these. I like this too. This modalities. Not only does this give us a chance to think about soft serve ice cream online learning, has some easy-ish ways to encourage speaking and for teachers to listen in. I've enjoyed Flipgrid so far. Okay, yeah, Flipgrid's good. All right, so as you chime in there, I'll read them. Yeah, let's stop this because we're good. If you're wondering how long this took, it took less than a week, I guess, or maybe it's ongoing, but at least the heavy lifting was done in a few days. We did the pre-planning on a Thursday, and the redraft was worked on Friday. Then by Sunday, he was able to post the assignments on Google, or that's post. And then on Monday and Tuesday, was able to walk the Ls through the assignment. And they really enjoyed it. They comprehended it. And I don't recall having them coming to me and say, oh, I don't understand. So it worked. The purpose of this slide is to show you what the structure is in our school. I work with Ls, of course, and there's also the FELS oversight over here. Now, if I was doing this like regularly in the classrooms, I would be, of course, pushing into where these Ls are in this class, for example. But in reality, all of these Ls and FELS are spread out over these three classes. So with this type of pre-planning that goes to all classes, I am supporting all three classes and the other Ls that might need the support. Okay, so that's why it's really important to get the basics down at the beginning to be able to deploy it over the weeks to impact the most students as much as possible. And the last thing is the motivation. The students might hate this, but you can point out that this is a high-level preparation for their high school. It's a term paper-like feel to what they're doing with a storyboard attached to it. This creates that excitement and that challenge at the same time. I wanted to show you the impact and engagement with this brief interaction one student had with the teacher. She starts in like really adamant and cantankerous, like, wow, you know, this assignment you gave us, it was like so much. And the teacher calmly wrote back, you know, I gave you a video explaining the assignment, and obviously she didn't see it. She says that she's drowning, but then the teacher goes, well, this is what high school feels like, you know. And she goes, okay, I guess you're right. And yeah, so you can see that she bought into it right there. And the teacher even added, well, look, it's like an AP class you're getting ready to do. She's one of the smarter students, or she's more advanced, forward-looking. So she liked that message. All right, so what we've just gone through really quickly is not all the little details you need to keep in mind. The adaptation process is multi-step as well. You look at the original materials, you look at how you can adapt the directions, you look at how you can adapt the content, and then you look at how the student's output can be adapted. Then you find resources. Okay, some people just go, let's find a resource and then try to stick it in here. I suggest going to your basic lesson and trying to adapt things along this continuum. Teaching Matters is a website you can go to. You can also take a look at this more closely, and if there's any topics here that you'd like to explore more, let me know, and I could provide some instruction for you that way. All right, the last thing we can do is the survey. In fact, well, there's one more thing after the survey I want you to look at, like the blog that I mentioned at the very beginning. So if you take the survey, and I will leave this timer on while you take it, we're going to come back and take a look at that material. So I'm going to make this run for like 15 seconds. Okay, I'm going to speed it up. And if you're not done, you can just pause. All right. This is the last slide, I promise. This stuff on the left, you can look at more closely. I wanted to show you what's on the right side. I think it's a little bit more important. You can post weekly announcements to provide an overview of the coming week's topics or a recap of the previous week, or you can do both. I've been running a blog this year for my students and the teaching staff. It shows a way to encapsulate every week what happens at our school. And also with this labeling here, you can keep a record of certain topics. So like maybe next year, someone wants to know something about math or Nearpod or something, and they can look at that. But what's the actual content of the latest blog? It's pretty much the same types of topics, but different material. What I like is that it shouts out the students and it features different teachers suggesting different things. So if you're a blog type of person, you can look for different resources that way. What I like is that this is shared with parents, and we have some Arabic speaking students. So with a click of a button, you can translate the blog into Arabic. The section, what I like here for parents is here. They could do some activities with their child together. So that way there's a parent-child connection while learning English. So much for that. Respond to questions that they post on a regular basis, hold office hours, use a video to clarify lessons. This recording is on Loom. You can check that out. It's for free for educators at this time, so it's worth checking out. It's really good to record something quick or more complicated for your students so you don't have to repeat and repeat. Grade in a timely fashion, which is all part of good teaching anyway, and have online discussions. All right, so we made it through. Thank you for your attention. I hope all this makes sense to you at some point. I appreciate the workshop survey, and hopefully I can see you as a participant in your workshop next time, or another one that I might do. Okay, so thank you again, and I'll see you next time.